Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Today's webinar topic is one that's pretty important to us here at BreezoMeter and really to anybody who understands the effect that air pollution is having on us and our world. And because of that, we wanted to do things a little bit different. We wanted to have a conversation with you, conversation about how to reduce your exposure to air pollution. And since we're talking about the exposure that everyone has, we've decided to bring to this conversation our product manager of consumer products, Yair Givnever.
Hi, guys.
Because he's responsible for all of you and what you see in our app, we thought he would be a good contributor to today's topic.
Awesome.
In our housekeeping, because we're having a conversation, we really want you guys to be a part of what we're talking about. Again, it will be recorded as usual and emailed to you, but as opposed to the Q&A session at the end of the webinar, please feel free to share your questions with us at any given time. If we say something that sparks your interest or makes you think of a further question, feel free to send it in. We'll stop what we're talking about and see if we can share the answer with you. Even if you click on the chat, we'd be happy to share. So things are going to be a little bit more informal today, but we will be covering a number of topics. So just so you know what's ahead: air pollution myths and misconceptions, monitoring personal exposure, extreme pollution events, air quality forecast, and the Family Hub, keeping your loved ones safe. So since we're going to be chatting with you guys today, we wanted to chat with you guys. Hi there.
Hello.
Feel free to increase the size of us and move over the presentation. You can make us half and half screen, or you can switch. We'll still be presenting a presentation, a deck, but a lot of it will be us chatting with you guys. So yeah, I thought maybe we'd get this conversation started with a quick question, a light question, if you may.
Mm-hmm.
What is, in your opinion, in your experience, the thing that's stopping people from reducing their exposure to air pollution?
Well, yeah, that's the big question. Reducing exposure to air quality is definitely my life mission right now, and I find that a lot of the people that I speak to at home, my parents, people that I have been talking about my job, they suffer from the same mindset that a lot of people have about air quality. A lot of them feel powerless. They have a very hard time understanding how much control they can have on air quality and how much air pollution they breathe every day. And they really have a few, let's switch this one.
We're talking about misconceptions that are passed down by generation, essentially.
Yeah, they feel that air quality in a way is like weather, which is not a good comparison. For example, one of the things they think beyond being powerless is that air pollution is the same everywhere in the city where they live, right? So if anywhere I go where I live is the same, that it somehow makes me powerless, right? Doesn't matter where I go, I'm breathing the same air. And we know that's not true. Air quality changes street by street. We can see that everywhere in the world. Traffic impacts it a lot. Dispersion, wind, things like that change how much pollution you have in different places. So that's definitely a misconception, that a myth really that holds people back from changing the way they behave and really making a change for the better and improving their health.
And people often don't know that it's even a myth. They take it as fact.
Yeah.
So they're not even looking to disprove it.
Exactly.
There's just simply overall powerlessness.
Absolutely. Another thing is people tend to think I know what's the air quality because I can look outside and see for myself, right? Like it's a clear day right now, and on top of that, I'm traveling the mountains outside of the city. I'm in a natural reserve. Why would I even check the air quality?
A beautiful day phenomenon.
Right, and truth is, pollutants, some of them react to the sun, right? O3 reacts, is created when NO2 reacts with the sunlight, and therefore, and by the way, NO2 travels hundreds of kilometers at times. So even though you are far away from the city, and in a beautiful day, then you will have high levels of O3, and which is of course very bad for a pregnant woman in a high concentration. So that's definitely another thing that's impacting. So it's the how local it is, how much it changes throughout the day. That's another thing. If I think it's going to be today, it's either a good or bad air quality day, then I'm in a way more powerless. On top of, well, it's the same everywhere. I can't do anything. It's all negative thoughts that are just incorrect and leave people just doing the wrong things for them and
or
for
inaction.
Inaction.
Yeah.
And one really important thing that people think that they have to do extreme things to lower their exposure. They think I have to sell my house because I'm in a polluted area. I have to move away. I have to quit my job and start working elsewhere. And again, these are things that impact your long-term exposure. And in a way, of course, they will improve your exposure to better quality, but there are also the short-term exposure, which are the little things that you can change without a lot of effort and reduce your exposure to air quality. And this is where you see the difference, right? There are things, the big things, there are a lot of things you can do for the long-term exposure, and there are a few things you can do for the short-term exposure. And if you're aware of both of them, you will definitely change your life. Later on, if time allows, I'll explain why my routine, if you want to hear about it. Just so you know, I have little kids. I like going out with them. I run long distances. So I'm impacted a lot by the air quality in the context of running. So yeah, I'll share that on if I have time.
We'd be happy to hear your tips later. I actually think we have another question here that will take us into our next topic of the conversation.
Sure.
Someone asked, do you think we can actually reduce our exposure in a dramatic way until actual pollution levels are down? And this is a relevant question to our next topic, Yair.
Right, yeah.
But first,
yeah.
Go ahead.
So do you want us to relate to the question first, or should I talk a bit before that about the World Health Organization guidelines? It's kind of related.
Yeah, talk about the guidelines, and then we can jump to the question.
Okay, cool. So let's start with the air quality index. Okay, that's something I feel there's a lot of lack of information in the general public. Every country has at least one air quality index. That's a way for the country to tell the citizens how good or bad air quality is. Some countries, the US, for example, and India, have more than one. In the US, we have 3 of them. And what's in common to almost all of them is that they're giving you advice in a way, or reflecting the current situation for the short term. That means if I'm looking at an AQI of, let's say, 200, that's telling me whether I can decide, should I go outside or not, especially, again, if I'm a sensitive population. And just so we clear what's a sensitive population, I'm not sure everybody online knows what that means. Oh, I'm sorry for the barking. That's our office dog.
She's protecting us.
She's protective. If she keeps doing it, we have to show her the way out. Anyway, sorry about that. So short-term exposure, the AQI is, again, should I go outside right now or not? Sensitive population equals pregnant woman, little kids, people with lung conditions, asthma, for example, heart conditions, and elderly people, okay? All these people, because of the capacity of their lungs and the impact that the air pollution can have on their health, they're considered sensitive, and therefore they should obviously be more aware of their quality at any given time and follow the recommendations, right? So back to the World Health Organization. So the World Health Organization actually have two types of recommendations for most of the pollutants. They have the short term. For example, PM 2.5, do not expose yourself for 20 ppb per hour. Okay, that means you don't want to be in very high concentrations for a short period of time. And the second one is an annual average. That means if you're living in a certain area, you want to know what's the yearly average, and this is what you use in order to follow the guideline. If you're above 10, for example, for PM 2.5, you're increasing significantly the chances the chances for a lung cancer and other cardiovascular diseases. Okay, so you need to be aware of those two things and take the AQI as it is supposed to be, as a short-term recommendation, and know the context of it. Okay, that's really important. So the second part, do you think we can actually reduce our exposure in a dramatic way until actual pollution levels are down? If you, at any given day, if you go to our website, you will see an air quality forecast, and you can see there how much it changes. Now, the key here we're in the marathon business, okay, guys? We're not looking at air quality only for the short term and making our decisions only for the short term. What I mean is try to save even a little bit of pollution or better quality every day, and that's okay, because in the long run, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, that accumulates to a lot of pollution that you're avoiding, okay? And then it really makes a difference. So the question, can you dramatically avoid it? Yes. If you stay indoors, for example, and turn on your air purifier, you're definitely going to reduce significantly your exposure, right? But there are other ways. We've seen several, I mean, that happens every day in multiple places in big cities, where you can choose your path to work and take a different route, and then you reduce significantly the amount of exposure. It can be 50% and even more that you just don't take in, right? PM 2.5, NO2, absolutely. That's just choosing, just by doing that, just by taking a different route to work, you can absolutely reduce dramatically your exposure. Sometimes in India, for example, in the recent Diwali festival, we'll talk about extreme events.
To my next question, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I just want to answer the second one. Okay?
Go for it.
So how do I know whether to trust a particular air quality provider? That's a very good question. I'll talk about us, and then I'll just give you a guideline on what to look for in any other air quality provider, okay? I think we want to be fair and also very open about what we know and what we don't know, and our other air quality providers, they do their things in different ways, okay? So for us, in order to be good and the most accurate air quality providers worldwide, we have to have certain levels, which we combine. The first level is the air quality monitors, the government ones, right? They're public information available anywhere around the world. By the way, that doesn't mean that it's easy to collect that information. That's actually very challenging, collect all that information. So the first thing you want to see, and that's common to all the air quality providers, the first layer is the air quality monitors. On top of that, you start building the more sophisticated layers, which are meteorological models, CAMs, You can have, of course, CAMS the satellite-based models, dispersion models, meteorological models. All that layers build more. We also have a fires model that we combine and smoke dispersion models. All that combines into our final BACI or air quality result. It's important also, so that's answering the question, try to understand what are the layers that the air quality provider uses in order to define to define what is the current air quality. And the second thing is, how do they make sure they're accurate? Our way is by looking back at the data, taking one of the components out and doing the comparison again without one of the without one of the components of the model, we can see whether we had an accurate prediction. So every hour, we look back and again and again and again, we collect the information and we validate the accuracy. And this is how we know that we keep our accuracy standards high. Yeah, that's the answer. Your question. Sorry, guys.
No, it's super important. And now
Sure.
I want you to essentially apply those two questions to extreme pollution events, because we've been talking about pollution that is on average pretty predictable, right? But what happens when you're in an area that's experiencing an extreme air pollution event, like the California wildfires or what's happened in India, like you mentioned? Something that's coming up more and more is, climate change, and the days are hotter. Something that also came up during the time of the wildfires with people that reached out to us was how do they know who to trust? They're seeing different air quality measurements from different sources. How do they know if it's safe to go outside? So I think it's important to have that same discussion in light of these extreme events.
Right. So the first thing is to acknowledge the problem with extreme events. Is based on everything we already said, right? Air quality changes all the time, right? We have wind direction that changes and other things that affects how the dispersion of smoke is from the fire. Sometimes you might have a fire 5 kilometers from you, but you have a mountain in between you. So obviously you will not be impacted as much. Imagine that case, for example. You have a monitoring station right next to a fire, and it's showing very bad air quality, maybe such as the one you're seeing in the screenshot. But in between you and the fire, there's some natural protection, like as I said, like a mountain. The air quality that you will see in the website will, not our website, but any other, can be misleading, because the closest monitoring station is showing poor air quality, but you actually, at that specific point in time, you're okay, you're safe. 2 hours later, wind direction changes, and maybe the fire moves to a different location or something like that happen, and then the air quality drops, and I'm talking within half an hour, you will see a drop in air quality. And this is why we have to be very, and we are very cautious when we give people information about air quality in events such as fire. We tell them to check the air quality regularly, because our predictions and our forecast changes by the hour at that point in time. We keep updating our information all the time, and sometimes we can even show that currently the air quality is good, and people tell us that they smell smoke, and yeah, this is what extreme cases do. Even when we're so accurate, still that might happen. In California recently, the sensor went down, meaning it was hard to find air quality info. What am I supposed to do when this happens? Yeah, when the air quality monitors are down, everybody's blind in a way. The only thing we're left with after we're taking the layer of the air quality monitors is the models that are satellite-based models, and they're limited, but it's the best available out there, and that's the best we can do. since we're talking about safety, that's always the case is to just take action, don't go out, keep safe. That's everything we can do. If the air quality monitors are down, I must say in the US that's not so common, but generally speaking, air quality monitors, the government ones, are not that reliable. We keep seeing that worldwide. They're not transmitting the data for a few hours, things like that. And this is where our models actually compensate for that. Since we calculate air quality and forecast it based on what's been happening in the last few hours with our advanced algorithms, we're actually pretty good in that specific gap where a couple of hours are missing or something is happening. We're actually very good on still being accurate in those situations. But if the monitors are down for a long time, that's going to be a problem for everyone.
So stay updated, know what's going on, and
Yeah.
you know, if need be, stay inside, turn on the air purifiers if you have one, hopefully in extreme air pollution events.
Yes.
Now, it's something we're super concerned about here. I know you want to talk about that is personal exposure.
Yeah. So this is again our mission. Our mission is really helping people out, give them the information they need to reduce their exposure. So the path we're now taking is changing the whole industry in a way, the perspective on air quality. Air quality is not weather. It's you are your air quality, right? You breathe at home, you breathe your way to work, you breathe at work, you breathe in the afternoon when you're with your kids. So you are the average of all the air quality that you're breathing, right? For good or worse. So what we're doing is showing your personal exposure throughout the day. Currently, we are showing daily personal exposure starting from midnight and throughout the day. You can see how much it changes. You can see the change in the morning. You might have something, then an hour later, as you can see in the screenshot, you have something a bit different. You might see a decline or an improvement. So this is one thing. We also added a premium feature for us, which is the Family Hub. It allows you to connect various phones and be in control of the air quality in let's say your kids are at school, maybe you have a kid with asthma, you need to have a good friend with a very sick boy, and has to be in control all the time about his air quality. So for him, this is gold for him. He really wants to know whether he should be in touch with his teacher, tell her not to go out.
Today.
Yeah, so that's the way to work with the Family Hub, and you can go into each one of your family members and see how the personal exposure of that individual is changing throughout the day. And also, that's, as I said, that's just the beginning for us. We will expand that to be weekly, monthly, show you trends, and really give you a very comprehensive view of your personal exposure. By the way, the personal exposure is not a premium feature, it's free. You're more than welcome to use it. Give me feedback. I'd be more than happy to improve it. And
please send your feedback.
Yeah, the
better we can empower you to make better decisions.
Yep. So yeah.
So we know we're talking about reducing exposure, but we also want to take a minute to talk about actions you can take to reduce air pollution.
We're short on time, so really quick, okay? One thing, it's not only about reducing your personal exposure to bad air quality, it's also about creating less air pollution. The EPA compiled a really good list of recommendations, things to avoid in order to really create less pollution. We should all be aware of this. So you can see there, for example, do not idle your car. That's, by the way, something that is forbidden by law in certain areas in London, for example, where in school street, you're not allowed to idle because you still emit a lot of pollution in the surrounding of kids. So we will share this link, right? Yeah. Okay. So we will share this link, and I strongly recommend you read it. They're really practical and easy to follow things. And one last thing, I thought I would share just a couple of, again, I told you a bit about myself, and I wanted to share just my personal take on how I reduce my personal exposure. So first thing, when I wake up in the morning, I open the app and look at the forecast. It really helps me plan my day. Sometimes I decide to skip a workout because air pollution is not good, and I can see that in the forecast. Sometimes I change the schedule, so I might go running out in the morning instead of in the evening, because again, because air pollution is just a little bit. I'm not looking for the dramatic changes. I'm just a little bit better in the morning. I go out in the morning. I use the air quality map to choose what clean areas, what area is a bit cleaner. So I want to take the kids to places that are just a bit cleaner if I can do that. As a matter of kind of awareness, since it's part of my job to be very aware to air quality. So when I walk on a heavy traffic street, I try to stay away from the street. You'll be surprised, but there's a big difference between walking right next to the cars and just going a bit aside. I try not to stand in the middle. I try to cross a busy street straight to the other side, so I
That's
don't
a really
stay.
easy one to do.
I'm not standing in the middle of all those buses and busy street and breathing a lot of pollutants. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's all about awareness, and I know when I'm gonna one day look for my house, I'm gonna really. We have a real estate report that gives you a year of data that helps you decide whether you want to live in specific place or not. So when time comes, I'm definitely gonna check for that data. And generally speaking, I try to be conscious, just breathing a little bit better every day. That's my biggest advice to you guys.
It's a great
Yeah.
takeaway. Remember, you're the air you breathe. Stay safe. Thanks again, Yair, for joining us.
Sure, thank you for
This
having
was a
me.
really great conversation. Thanks you guys for being with us in this informal setting. And we will see you next time.
See you guys. Thank you.